Well, good morning, friends. Thank you so much for joining us. We hope you're having a fantastic Tuesday. So grateful to be here with my co-host, Paul. Thank you for joining us, Paul and Brian. Last minute request for an artist spotlight, and Brian, totally accepted. We're so grateful for your time, Brian. Thank you for joining us. Let me start with my co-host, Paul. How are you today this morning?
Hey, what's happening? Another beautiful day. Um, Happy to be here. I was excited to see that, our buddy Brian is up on the stage and chop it up with us today. Can't wait to talk, to catch up, to hear more about what's going on and, to have some fun discussions. So welcome, Brian. How you doing, buddy?
I'm glad. It's good to be here. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, man. Good.
Hey, I've been seeing your Topaz. Your,
Yeah, the new iteration, the new generation of ads.
no, but it's cool to see you doing that, man. That's awesome.
Oh, thanks, brother. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, Brian, but you
Nice.
could tell the rest of the people that are here that don't know and have not seen any commercials from Topaz either on Facebook, on Instagram. They're probably not there because I haven't seen it on Twitter. However, if you go to Instagram and Facebook, you will see a little Topaz. What would they see, Brian? What would they see?
They would see an ad where Paul is talking about how the Topaz helps take some of his photography to the next level.
Yeah, baby. That's right.
But
That's awesome.
it's convinced me to give it a shot, man. So it better be good, or I'm coming to you
Nice.
directly.
Yeah, directly. It's all my fault.
Yeah,
Well, either that or you have a live tutorial with Paul.
yeah.
Well, thank you, Brian, for joining us. We are so grateful for your time and for gracing us with your presence. I really enjoy your series, so we're going to talk about a few things. But for those that are here and don't know Brian, I've posted some of his images on top. He's also going to talk about it. But if you would like and you have time and you want to reshare this space so that other people can join us, that would be amazing. Also, if you have questions, we want the audience to participate in our conversation with Brian. So feel free to request and come up and Q&A here with Brian, so that we can keep the conversation going. We do like the new format where we have open conversations with the guests. And so we'll have a few questions, but if you're able and willing and want to ask a few questions, please join us up on the stage. And with that, I'm going to let Paul get us started.
Nice. Well, Brian, we always like to just open up the space, and give our talented guests the opportunity to just, give us a little bit of insight into who you are, what you do, how you found yourself here in this crazy space, and anything else you'd like to share. So the floor is yours, sir.
Who is Brian? That's I don't know, man. I just don't know anymore. I'm just a dude that wants to make art for a living. Um, well, I guess, like there's the usual, baseline information. Born and raised in Bangor, Maine. Spent a few years in Norway. Did the college thing. Uh, Lived in South Florida for like 14 years. And just moved back up to Maine last year to really focus on, I don't know, I guess being around family more because they're really starting to age, and building an art studio with the old man in a barn that hasn't been utilized for as long as I've been alive. So that's what we're doing up here. It's going to be super nice to have a plate. Sorry, that's the coffee machine. It really wants to let you know the coffee's finished. I know it's finished. I turned it on. I wanted the coffee. I'm, um, yeah, so it's going to be great to have like a really nice art studio at the end of the day that I don't have to pay rent on it. Nobody can take it away. I can just go there, do my work. Maine's not the greatest place for an art studio. It's not like the art capital of the world, but New York's not too far away. So in combination with my art van, I figured just make a bunch of art and bring it down to New York and see how it goes. Maybe down to Florida too. I still got a lot of connections down there. Other background that's relatively important that I bring up from time to time. I think, I lost track I did good in school somehow, but I lost track with my passion of art and photography during my college years. And a few years later, because I was a pretty heavy active drug addict and alcoholic, so that's the reason why I ended up down in South Florida, is to go to rehab and get sober. It took a couple tries, but 14 years now, which is pretty awesome. And 3 years into that sobriety is really when I rediscovered photography as a creative outlet and focused on that for many years. But recently I've been actually branching out a lot further than photography. It's just not always doing everything that I want to do with it. There's so much that I want to explore and say that I've decided to allow myself to do that. I guess that's the general rundown.
That's amazing. And what a journey for you as you venture out of something and into photography, right? You ventured out of something that was toxic and into something that was healthy for you. Um, I love hearing that because I think that's a journey for a lot of people where they find healing in art, healing or restoration and something that they're passionate about. And so that's very inspiring. How did
Well,
you?
and it was always there, and I think it was always meant to be. I think when I started college, nobody, like, when I was in high school and I was really like into photography, I was doing it the whole time. It was always like a side thing. Nobody was like, "Hey, you can do this. This is something that you can do if you want to." Nobody said that. I guess it made more sense to do like advertising or graphic design or something like that, but that's not, at the end of the day, that's not where I wanted to end up, even though I went to school for that stuff.
So, how did you go from um, photography into like doing it for your business, like doing it for yourself, but just picking it up out of passion and then turning that into something that you do for a living?
Well, it was probably like 9 years ago. I won this contest for Marlboro Cigarettes, had a photography contest, and I ended up winning a bunch of photography equipment, like $10,000 worth of Canon equipment. And then on top of that, I won like 20 grand. And it was crazy. It was like the biggest payout for a photo contest I'd ever seen. I've never seen anything like that since then. And I was just stuck in this office making websites I did not give a shit about. I was like, I'm out of here, man. That's it. That's enough. I'm done. And, I haven't turned back. I've had like side gigs here and there, real estate. I've done real estate for some time and a few other things. I worked in the addiction field for a little bit. But other than that, I've been mostly focused on doing the photography because with the addiction, it's like you get out of this hell that you've been living in for so long, and then I realize, like, I'm in this office that I don't want to be in, and I'm like, I'm not going to live. I didn't like survive to live like this. I'm going to go do what I want to do. I'm going to be really grateful for my second chance here, and I'm going to try to live my life unapologetically. And it really was like that. Like if I hadn't have gotten sober, I wouldn't still be alive at this point for sure. So, there was an immense amount of gratitude, and I had to, honor that gratitude by, living my life the way that I want to.
That's beautiful, Ryan. It's impressive. um Paul, did you want to jump in?
Uh, no, you just literally took the words out of my mouth. I was just going to say it. That's, that's beautiful. And thank you for sharing, and thank you for, giving us some insights into the person and not just the product of what we see every single day. and enjoy, just that, but there's oftentimes multiple layers to people that we don't fully understand until we get an opportunity to hear from them. So yeah, thank you for being willing to share that aspect of life. I feel definitely akin to that. Earlier on in my life, I squandered some opportunity that way. And yeah, so it makes me feel even more like you said, that responsibility, is there.
Yeah,
And always kind of reminding me of that second opportunity that I've had. I was a musician, and now I'm a photographer. So yeah, it's really interesting. I'm always fascinated by the parallels that I discover in these spaces. So yeah, again, thanks for sharing that. And, yeah, it was really nice to know.
absolutely, man. I think vulnerability is a hell of a thing. You know, like talking about things that, yeah, I'm just sure there's some people out there that could judge me for my past. I'm not really too concerned about it. Because I think what ends up happening is that like a lot of people can relate to this stuff. And when we talk about these things, I think it's better for everybody to create a space where like we can actually be real about what we've gone through. The other thing is that like, you know, drugs and alcohol are no longer the issue. I haven't thought about doing that for like 14 years. It's not like I have a hard time not doing that. What I do have a hard time with is, staying sane and maintaining, uh, healthy mental habits for myself and to like stay on an even keel. And I think that's one of the crux of addiction is that like my brain is going 1,000 miles a minute all the time. And, you know, that can be difficult to deal with. So I think if you look at my art, you can see a lot of like what I've gone through in the past, what I'm going through now. I think it really kind of like goes hand in hand, that struggle, and like what I do in my work. I think it just bleeds through always. And there's a lot of sadness and loneliness in my pieces, which isn't necessarily how I exist in this world today, but it happens. Like it's still there sometimes. And I think that comes through. I also think that those things are okay to express, or you have a tendency to want to express them even if they're not currently present. And I'm also very curious about like just kind of like pushing the limits of comfortability, because one of the things that I was always disappointed with myself in is not living 100% free. And like, I'm a weird dude. I like weird shit. I like to make weird stuff. Like I'm not a common person, I guess. And, you know, I kind of like hide from that in some respect. And I also try to wear that as a badge of honor. But what I don't like to do is like not live my life freely in that way. So my art often is really just trying to push that and see like how uncomfortable I can make with the things, how uncomfortable I can make myself with the things that I make, and be like, oh, this is what I made. Like, look at it, you know, and, try not to care what people think about it at the end of the day. And also like encourage other people to do the same thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I think as long as you're pushing yourself, you're evolving, and then in turn you're encouraging others to do that. That is a healthy mindset, um, especially in the arena that we are in. Um, Wanted to ask, how you found yourself here in this NFT space.
Well, there was this group that this guy started, Matty Mo, like during the pandemic. He called himself the most famous artist. I think he's building like an art city in New Mexico now. But he had this like art group and I was in it, and, I wasn't really a part of it. I was just kind of on the outskirts of this thing. And then one day he was like, if you guys listen to one thing that I've said this entire time we've been doing this art group, is like get into NFTs. So I was like, all right, well, I guess I'll do that. And, and I minted some of my Polaroids that I had started doing, the Gummoland Polaroids, for like 0.5, and I think there was a decent price on Ethereum then. What was it, like $2,000 or something? I don't know. It was enough that somebody bought 3 of them, and I was like, what do I do now? Like that, why did you buy these? I need to give you your money back. Like, what is going on? But then I stuck around and I got more involved, and I was like, I really believe in the idea of the digital asset and ownership of a digital asset and the value that we bring with our work to the space. So I felt an obligation to this person, not to give them back their money, but to fulfill the obligation of continuing as an artist in the space. So I minted the rest of the collection, and I worked my ass off to get it noticed. I was the only guy doing this kind of thing. It was so early, and I'd go up in spaces and be like, hey, this is my project Gummoland with these Polaroids, and the host would always be like, all right, great, so who's next? And I was like, oh shit, man. But eventually, my other interesting artists started to arrive, and the Gummoland did well. And then I decided to, stay and continue to be a part of the space.
Wow, that's impressive. Right? Like, I think the NFT world, at first in the earlier days when we all joined in, it was kind of like a wild ride, and learning how to navigate and promote your work. But then also when you get paid, you're like, well, okay, this is a real thing. And so, I'm glad you stuck with it. You are now transitioning into like new work. I'm going to jump into the new work, or the work that you're doing, because you sort of started to transition your work from just pure photography into creating masks. And I just wanted you to talk more about that in your journey, creating and why you started doing those masks. Because now you're not just doing it in a painterly photography way, but now you have physicals. And so I'm very intrigued by the new work that you're creating.
Yeah, the masks are, they're actually kind of born out of the Gummoland series. I wanted because the Polaroid series uses a lot of masks. A lot of the characters in there are wearing something over their face, like a mask of some sort. And so I thought, well, I'll make my own mask. I ran out of things to put in front of people's faces in the thrift stores and the costume shops. It was starting to get a little bit I was just running into the same things over and over again. So I was like, I'll make my own masks. And so I made some masks, and I don't know why it ended up being like a collage thing. I just think that it just kind of happened. And I put them in the photos, and I was like, oh, this misses the mark. These masks are too much. They do not work in these photos. They do not fit the vibe. And so I put them to the side for a little bit, but then, I had 5 of them, and I was like, these things are really cool though. I think they need to exist. I think they can exist on their own. And then this year, from people had mentioned oh, I do a piece of art every single day. We can see how that worked out for me. So I was like, all right, I'll do that. And I've been trying to do that every single day. And one day I looked at the mask. I was like, I'm going to make another mask. And then I made one, and it felt really good to make it. I looked at it. I was like, well, these things are really badass. So I decided to perfect the process. And once I perfected the process, I was like, I can make a lot of these. I think this can be a really cool collection. And that's kind of how it all happened.
And they are pretty cool. For everyone that wants to see the mask that you were talking about, I've put them at the bottom in our chat box if you wanted to see it. You went from the bought mask to your own creation, your own mask of creating them, which I think it's really cool. But they hold something very unique because you cut parts of magazine or pictures, or how do you put them together?
I really just kind of scour the internet for interesting faces, and then I'm also limited to interesting faces that come in a big enough photo to use, and then I just print a bunch of those off. and use those like that. But, you know, it takes a long time to find the interesting faces and get them all printed off. The whole process is actually pretty time consuming. It would be a lot harder to do with magazines, to be honest with you. That would be quite a challenge. Plus, you know, I'm also sticking to the black and white vibe that I have kind of in the baseline of my art with this one. So, it's nice to be able to print them off in black and white and use them that way.
I love I love that you coined it phygital. I like that. That's awesome. I like the
Well,
digital physical.
that is not my term. That is Maker's Place's term, which
Oh,
they use. So yeah,
wow.
you can buy these masks on Maker's Place. You get the NFT, and then you can claim the physical piece, and they get sent in the mail. There's a few. I know Catherine down there also does that with her guest check series. She's on Maker's Place with that, where you can buy her guest check, and then you'll get the NFT, and then she'll send it in the mail. So I'm a
That's
part of
awesome.
I'm part of that crew where we're just kind of like, experimenting with the NFT and physical.
Nice. Nice. That's
And,
amazing.
and these things like, so I wanted to make these really weird ass masks, you know, but I wanted to present them as like a really nice piece of fine art. So I created these floating mounts. So you have these mounts where they kind of like elegantly float off the wall like a museum piece, and you just hang that floating mount on the wall with a mask on it.
It's impressive. And now I want to jump into community because obviously now you're mentioning on Makerspace, and I'm sure the community has impacted you as to how you um, create, where you create, where you mint, and so tell us a little bit about if have you joined a community that has inspired you or impacted your state, your Web3, or that's guided you into a direction or a different path. How's that gone for you? Like your experience with the community?
Oh, you know, to be honest with you, I'm kind of flailing on the whole community aspect. I wish I had a beautiful answer for you, but I've done a good job at like connecting, and I've made some lifelong friends, and I've connected with my photography community. I mean, you and Paul were, and Erica, and a bunch of people have been so great to connect with at the various in-person events. And, you know, Bryony, who's not here, will be like one of my best friends for life, and Lalo out in LA, and a few other people, for sure. But like, as far as being able to like foster a strong, sustaining community, I've had a little bit of difficulty with that because I haven't. There's been, to be 100% honest, I think one of my shortcomings here is not embracing the quote unquote crypto culture the way that some other people have. Like, I haven't, like, I'm not particularly like intrigued by Pepe. I'm not like super excited about that. I think a lot of people are. Like, I think the punks are cool because they revolutionized the whole thing. I don't own one. You know, I could like, I'm not super interested in like Bored Apes or anything like that. And, I haven't found a reason to make my art more digital in a way that speaks to the space that a lot of artists do, that would like amplify my work. So like, a lot of work that we see here in a lot of communities are built around like art that has some motion or some like AI, and I haven't fallen into those places in a way that is like speaking my truth. So I haven't like indulged in a lot of that stuff. So there's been a few places, and things move so quickly that I've had a little bit of difficulty jumping on the Solana train or jumping on the Tezos train. I'm very cautious, you know, so I've just basically stuck mostly with like Ethereum. And I've been a little bit of a lone wolf, out here. That's all right, you know. I love people. I would love to build more community. I'm here for it. It's just, that's the answer I got for you.
And we're here for you. Paul, you wanted to say something.
No, I was just going to say, I think it's okay to be cautious and to move at your own speed. That I think that the idea of like us hopping on the new and latest thing, and especially in the beginning of this art space, 3 years ago, it was unreasonable how fast we had to adapt and how we needed to be on whatever platform we were on every second of every day, because if we missed, an afternoon, we missed a week, and like all of these really unhealthy um environments that it created. I think there's a remnant of that still there. And if you miss this drop, then, like you're irrelevant, or like you have to start over again. All of these things, I think, um, tend to pull us away from the actual essence of what this community is about, which is just like where we are creatives, we are artists, and we are creating, and we're here in a space where we have an opportunity to support each other, to champion each other, to protect each other, and to educate each other, and to hear that like your pace and your desires for what you're doing, like that. I resonate with that. I don't jump on the next hottest thing. I kind of want to make sure that I'm not just, going down a rabbit hole that is a time suck, or it's just, occupying way too much bandwidth, in my mind when I'm trying to do other things. And Web3 is just another avenue where I'm, trying to create art and community. So yeah, no, I resonate with that very much so.
And I've been able to digest the question a little bit more while you've been talking, Paul. And if I do look at community, I know like I'll give Miami a shout out for their community and the events that they put on in New York. That's been motivating for like Brian and I to put on the events that we put on in New York. And I mean, that community experience has been great. It's always been great to go to these in-person events. It's always nice to come into these spaces and see people that I've connected with. And that always like fills me up quite a bit. And that's really all very nice to be a part of. So to all the people putting on those things, it's always been a good time to be able to go out and be a part of that community. And I will say, like, there's so much art in this space. It's definitely like looking at everybody else's art and having, being influenced by other people's vision certainly like expands my horizons of like what art is, what art can be. And I've really kind of like, I've gotten to a new level of understanding and openness, not only at what I'm looking at and being like, oh yeah, okay, that's cool. That's like a cool piece. That's a piece of art for sure. And like looking at other people's work, but also looking at my own and creating my own and allowing myself to create, some things that maybe I wouldn't have allowed myself to create before.
That's awesome. So who inspires you in this space? I mean, I'm sure it's multiple, but who inspires you the most in this space?
The most who inspires, oh my God, I can't say. That's a really tough one. Can I come back to that question?
Absolutely.
No, you have to answer it now. Otherwise, we will have missed a week, in the
I
space
mean,
if you don't answer it.
I'm just seeing so many new people all the time. It's hard for me to retain all the names,
No,
of
I'm just
these.
kidding. You don't have to answer it now. We can come back to it. I'm just busting your chops.
Well,
Don't
good,
feel,
because
don't feel the pressure.
I can't handle it otherwise.
Good. Annie, do we want to open it up and, get some people up here and, have some
Absolutely.
questions?
Absolutely. So if you're here and you want to jump up and ask Brian some questions, we are wanting this to be a conversation where you are a part of. So please jump up and request to be on the mic on stage. But I want to jump back to Brian. You said at the beginning that you won a contest and they gave you Canon products because you're speaking to two Canon photographers here. So, I want to jump back and say, did they introduce you to Canon or you already knew the kind of gear you wanted?
Oh, I didn't know that no, I had no idea what kind of gear I wanted. So they sent me like a Canon Mark III 5D, which I think just finally died. We've been through hell and back together. The thing's all scarred up, but it stopped turning on. I I haven't checked it in like a week, but the other week it wouldn't turn on anymore. Maybe I finally got it too wet in the rain. That thing was a beast. I mean, we've been through hell and back, and they gave me like a giant, like 70 to 200 millimeter zoom lens. Your standard, what is your standard, like 28 to 70, and like a flash, and then another small, like pocket Canon camera, something like that. But I use that Mark III 5D for up until the other day when it stopped working.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed that you have it still since back then. That's amazing. What a great tool, but then gear, right? It tells you quality. But I mean, I'm no one to talk about gear, but I love Canon and I love Fuji, but Canon has been my go-to for all my event work. So I'm very proud of Canon. I know
I
I'm an ambassador, so I have to be careful too about talking about Fuji. So
well, I really want that. What is that? Leica M11. I want that thing.
oh, nice.
Yeah, I
Great,
want that.
great choice. Well, thank you so much for our friends Downs and Towns that are here on stage and welcome so much. How are you today?
Hey guys, this is Katie. Houston's working today, so he's going to be so bummed that he missed Brian's space.
Oh, hey,
So,
Katie.
yeah, while Houston's not here, I wanted to take the opportunity. I don't have a question for Brian, but I just want to say thank you to Brian. Um, Early on in the space, we were kind of flailing around trying to figure out what we were going to do and where we fit in. And Brian was so awesome. It's really kind of cool because Brian's like the bad boy of the NFT space, and here's Houston over here shooting, kittens and, travel photography type stuff. But Brian was so supportive, and he even sent Houston a Polaroid camera that you could offer Houston $1 million for, and he would not even begin to think about parting with it. So it's so neat to see the relationships and the support here in the space. And I just especially wanted to thank Brian for being just such a good guy. So thank you.
Well, that makes my day. Thanks.
And
One,
actually,
because I think it's so sweet that Polaroid camera is so cherished. Like I just, that's awesome. And also like, yeah, I'll take that bad boy label any day. Thank you.
well, actually, it is really cool because right after we got the camera from Brian, we got invited to go, to shoot at the Indianapolis 500, the race, that happens in May. And so Houston took Brian's Polaroid and took some pictures with some expired film that he had sent with us. And the pictures turned out so cool. When I was a kid, I lived in Indianapolis and I went to the race a very long time ago. And the pictures just reminded me of how it felt being there back a long time ago. And so maybe one of these days we'll mint one of those because it was a lot of fun. And so we just, again, Brian's an awesome guy, and I'm glad you're being recognized today because we love the work that you're doing. And thank you.
Thanks, Katie. I hope we get to see you guys in person again sometime soon.
Yep, that's always a highlight for us.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. Thank you, Katie, for coming up and sharing and giving your flowers to Brian. How sweet. And this is community, right? Where we could share with each other, but also encourage each other in this space. I think it's so unique, but it's special. We turn the Web3 internet into IRLs and community, and we bond. And so I think this is so important. So if you ever have an opportunity to go to an IRL event, I highly suggest that you do and enjoy it. Talking about IRL, starting Friday, there's an art festival in New York, Brian. Did you know about this?
I did not know about it, but I'm stuck up here holding down the fort, so I can't do it.
Oh, totally fine. I just wasn't sure if you knew, but I understand. Not
I would love to. I would love to. Yeah, no, we got some tenants who have problematic smoke detectors and various other things which I need to make sure are taken care of.
absolutely, absolutely. Well, Katie, you are loved here in our community with Light Art and Mijamo Art. You and your son are both very special. And so I know Matt is not here, but if he were to be here, he would be sending his flowers to both of you. So thank you for coming up and joining us in this space. So, Brian, tell us a little bit about what you're working on currently, not just the faces, but are you doing any other type of art within the community?
Well, this past year I've been making a different piece of art every single day. So I've explored a lot of stuff. I mean, I post it on Twitter every day, but my engagement's pretty low here right now. But I have kind of blown up a little bit on Instagram over the past year, mostly because of the masks. But I've been experimenting with cyanotype. I do a lot of spray paint and stencil stuff. Um, the spray paint and stencil stuff was stuff I was doing before I even came into this space or picked up photography again. Before I picked up photography again, I was going to make t-shirts, and I'm still very much interested in that. So I made a few t-shirts with the cyanotype. Uh, I've been experimenting with VHS video. I started to build a little bit of a video collection where I basically take this VHS camera and I post it up in an interesting location. And then I stand there in a thermal heat suit for like a minute, kind of talking about like nostalgia. I'm sure some of us in this space can relate in that weird age of where we were all connected without like technology and social media, and now we are connected with this technology and social media all of a sudden, like somewhere in my, uh, early 20s, I started getting connected this way, but then often it feels like more disconnected and we really like crave the ways of the past. So these VHS videos in the thermal heat suit are speaking to like that lost kind of like sense of disconnect and a bit of a longing for the past, hence the VHS vibes. Uh, yeah, just a whole bunch. If you pop over to my Instagram, you can see my daily experiments, my daily pieces of art. Lots and lots of different stuff. I'm just at Brian Cattelle everywhere. Fortunately, I've been able to have a unique enough name that I'm usually able to get all of that. I've been doing gel transfers, which are cool. Been messing around with AI a little bit. Just generative fill in Photoshop, but I'm getting some super weird results. Um, yeah, and then sometimes, I'll take like a few nature photos. Building a second Gummoland collection. So Return to Gummoland, another weird and quirky, Polaroid series. Yeah, and just a variety of other like art experiments.
I love that you're doing these daily shares. Um, it's just like I'm always fascinated by the amount of discipline that's kind of like creating something on a daily basis and sharing, or going into a project and having one idea and turning it into its own like art ecosystem is super. I don't know. It's just really creative, and it's my mind doesn't work like that. So seeing people do it, and then like there's like just to me, I'm always enamored by um that level of thought and planning and then execution. It's really inspiring.
Dude, it's exhausting, and I don't want to. I don't want to do it today. I don't want to do it today. I'm like halfway through. I started to like work on this chair today. I'm trying to put a collage on the chair, and I hate it. I hate it. I don't. I'm not gonna. You know what? I'm gonna film myself smashing it. That's what I'm gonna do. It's tough, man. And like, I tried to do a little bit of poetry because there was one day I was feeling lazy and I was like, oh, I'm going to do like a little spoken word poetry thing, do a little cop out, like get out of this real easy today. Poetry is hard, man. Like when I create something visually, I can make all kinds of excuses of what it means. Like if I change my mind about what it means, like I can just say it means something else. But when you're very poignant with your words and quite direct, you're stuck in that vulnerability, and it feels so cringy to write these like feelings down and express them publicly. It's like, oh my God, this hurts so bad to do this. So the thing that I thought was going to be a cop out, like spoken word or poetry, is really the most vulnerable and difficult thing to do out of them all.
Well, that's impressive that you're pushing yourself to that point, but that's the best come out of us when we're most uncomfortable and push ourselves forward. And it's my experience that it takes a village in my end to keep this uh, my journey going, and so it takes a lot of desire and passion to see something through, and not give up. And so I commend you, and I think that you're doing a fantastic job, and I love the how you push yourself, and you're doing it for you and not for no one else, and I think that's important, but also an inspiration. So thank you for sharing that, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the whole practice is building, and you every time you do something new, you learn something. You can remember it for later. You're working on something else, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember this other thing that I did that works good here. So it's all I don't know, giving myself my own art school, I guess.
That's awesome. But here in the stage, we have Erica. Thank you so much for joining us, and being a part of this conversation with Brian.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah, good morning or GM, you guys. And no, I just wanted to come up and thank you all. I love that you guys hold these spaces and it's wonderful. So I wanted to give you your flowers. And of course, I wanted to give Brian his. Brian is just like, I just think you're such a great force in this space, and it's kind of like I think it's exhausting for so many of us, and just so sticking around doing what you do. But no, really, you're just so down to earth, so kind, and like in a really unassuming way. And I love that you were holding spaces. Curious if you still are. Maybe that's my question. And love your daily art. But yeah, so just wanted to send some love.
Oh, thanks, Erica. I always have a great time seeing you out there too. We got to do the Beeple Crypto Winter Wonderland last year, which was a really good time. And I'm gonna enter something into that this time. Let me see what I got here.
That's
I got a
perfect.
bunch, I got a bunch of Trump Biden, pieces that I did, during the Gummo Land, I think, which fit really well
Oh, those are
for the
perfect.
motive. Although,
Oh my God.
yeah, um, I haven't been doing the spaces. I don't know. It's been hard to like be motivated to do spaces, especially when attendance has been a little bit low. So I took a little bit of a break from it, but I always do have a good time doing the spaces. It is quite a commitment. So I commend you guys for being here today and doing the space. And I think I got to get a little bit more involved in spaces in general again. I think we get a little bit burnt out by like talking about the same thing over and over again, or like getting tips and tricks, or like being told, how we should be, doing things. And none of it means anything because everybody is so nuanced in different ways of what their preferences are. I just, kind of took a little bit of a step back from the spaces, but I'm searching for the motivation to do it again. I'm searching for it. It's almost there. It's close.
Let's go.
I want to. I want to reignite the whole gallery black box thing with Bryony.
Oh,
She's
that's
on a new
awesome.
adventure. I do, but she's on a new adventure right now. She's going to school. She's going to be a world famous fiber artist at some point. I think by the end of her journey over there, she's going to do some really big things. So I think she's pretty engulfed in her classes at the moment and just going to take over in the UK. But if I can get her on board, I would love to like reignite the gallery black box and maybe put on an event, but at least do some curation and stuff like that in the NFT space.
That sounds like a fun project. But reigniting takes some time. We are in it's seasons, right? Right. I go back to season. We are in an interesting time within the season of this space. And so yeah, you just do your best, put your best foot forward and hope for the best. And as long as you know that you've done the best, I think that's really what matters and what counts in this space. But don't burn out, Brian, and try to do too much at the same time. I think that's important. I think sometimes we want to do all the things and push ourselves real hard forward and then we step back and we don't see the result that we expected. And so we feel the burn and we feel, um, fallen expectations. And so, as long as you're doing your best, and you feel good about what you've got out there, I think then you're on the right track, right? If it's you. But I love hearing how diverse you are. I think that's so important as an artist because we are in many ways creative and our outlets are in different ways as creatives. And so like Paul is a musician and a photographer and all these creative outlets flow from us with multiple creative outlets. And so I think Brian, you exemplify that.
Yeah, I mean, there was people would say you got too much time on your hands, and I'm like, no, there isn't enough time. There's too much to do. I don't know what you're talking about enough time. I didn't have enough time to do all these other things. And the other thing I wanted to establish here, which has been difficult, and just as an artist in general, and I've seen some successful artists, and I mean, talking success as far as like, being prominent and probably earning a living off of what they're doing, that do a lot of different things. And my first project when I got that equipment and I went out and I like wanted to do my first project, that was the Bear USA, the nudes and abandoned buildings. And I ended up being known for that and I did that very well. But I was like, I don't want this to be the rest of my life. Do I have to do this same thing over and over again because people really like it and it works really well and I'm good at it? And I'm like, I need to let people know that this isn't all I'm going to do. So let's just establish this inconsistency now that you can consistently expect me to be inconsistent with like what I'm making or like the genre that I'm working in. So I think it's a painful path to go on because branding works. One thing works really well. If you do that over and over again, we see it here. We see it in the real art world. Examples in Miami, Atomico, he just does oranges everywhere. Always orange, orange, orange. You got A-hole sniffs glue. He's got his cool eyes. You got people like this that are out there and they love doing what they do, but they do it so repetitively that they get really well known for that thing. And, that's just not, and it works well, but that's just not my path. I'm just too all over the place and I gotta allow myself to be that. So I'm hoping the painful evolution of being inconsistent will eventually pay off once I get myself in a position to have the freedom to do whatever I want.
I commend you for that. That's amazing. And I agree. I think that if your heart is not satisfied, why stop? And only you can dictate where you're headed. And so create your own path. So that's brave of you, but it's also very commendable. So thank you for sharing that. I think a lot of artists want to stick to one thing because they want to be known for one thing. That's cool. If that's their path, that's amazing. But you said it's not your path. You said you want to be known for more things, and I just commend you for taking that bravery. It takes bravery, it takes a step forward, and you're doing it, and you're showing up and you're doing it. So I commend you for that.
Well, thanks. You get awfully nice words. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, my friend. We're here to encourage. Any last words, Brian? Do you want to share with us any last words?
Uh, a, a blessing and a curse, this goddamn art thing. I mean, what is it? You know, like, I can't stop. It's not going away. I mean, even if I did burn out, the only option is to continue to go, you know? And I think a lot of us are experiencing that as our truth in life. It's a difficult thing sometimes as a 42-year-old man making a weird mask. And I'm like, what the fuck what am I doing with my life? What significance does this thing that I'm doing have on this earth, to me, to other people? And then I take a step back and I realize that, like, art is, no matter what kind of art you're creating, when you're creating, you're progressing humanity, you know? And, like, without art, the world cannot be the world that it is today. We can't grow, we can't learn, we can't evolve. So every single artist out there, no matter how they feel at any certain period of time, is doing something that's extremely important. Some may argue the most important thing that we can do for humanity as a whole.
I love that. Well said. And we have one last chance. And so, Fine Art, did you want to say something?
Yes, thank you. I think I arrived late, but right on time. I wanted to say hello to Brian, and I was listening to his comments, and it's about the same thing for a whole bunch of people. I used to say that I get bored of myself. So, I switch from one project to another and not trying to brand myself as one of a kind, style of work. So I keep pushing my own envelope in different directions. So I understand your position, but don't dismay. Okay, the style. I mean, the concepts behind what you're building eventually show up. No matter what we do. That's the things that really keeps me going. I know, even in commercial photography, I stopped doing advertising when I know my portfolio is getting bored. And then I start doing other stuff less profitable. Sometimes I stop getting profit. I'm just working on personal projects because I need to feed myself with the new information, new data, new ways of seeing things. And sometimes I say, man, what am I doing wrong? And there's nothing wrong here. I think that it's a way of how hungry you are inside yourself to keep doing new things. And one last comment: if you are, ever trying to, revive one of those curational processes, just knock the door. I've been having a lot of experience in different gallery things and stuff. I will be a helping hand if you need one. If you ever, embark in something new in that direction. Thank you so much, everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming up and saying that. Thank you. Yeah, I'll definitely connect with you. I'm always, again, back to the community building. I'm always about, trying to build and do new things and, make things happen.
Fine. Thank you for the encouragement to Brian, and as we all here in attendance hear your encouragement, it goes for a lot of us that um are not satisfied with just one medium or one form of art. And so thank you for encouraging Brian and offering your services to Brian. This is community, and I love that you share that.
Thank you for the time.
Absolutely. Thank you. I know our time is coming to an end. And so, I wanted to encourage everyone here. If you need community, Brian's talking about, we're lone wolves as creatives, but we don't have to do it alone. And Light Art is a community. You're welcome to join our community, in our Discord and join a conversation. So you don't have to feel alone. And not just here on Twitter, but outside when we meet IRL. If you are going to the Art Festival in New York, come meet me. My name is Abrahani. I love hugging people and just meeting new people. And I really do think that the more we meet IRL, the more you feel connected to the Web3 space and you won't feel alone. So you're not alone. And so with that said, there's tons of spaces throughout the week that you can connect. I know Erica up here on the stage also has spaces. Brian said he's going to start his space. So we're eyes open. There's a ton of friends here in the audience that you can connect with. Hello to all the guests and thank you so much for joining us. We do appreciate you. But you don't have to feel alone. It's kind of my message here as to, a point that Brian was saying. And if you're starting to feel burned out, join a community and go have some coffee with friends in the community or like people within your network. I know Matt always says is if you can't or can afford or can't travel to go to an IRL big event, make your own event within your community. Go to a coffee shop, pick up water if you can't afford a coffee, right? But just get in community with other people, get together with people. That would transition you from this burnt out kind of space and allow you to like expand and explore other things. And so I think that's an encouragement that we can all take. Um, Not set by me, set by Matt, but I think it's our heart in Light Art, Mejamo Art is to build community and encourage others to build their own community. So with that said, Brian, thank you so much. We so appreciate you being here. And we're grateful for your time.
No, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to have me and be here and ask the questions and listen to a little bit of my story. I would love to hear more of both of yours sometime. So hope we can make that happen at some point.
Absolutely. We love that. With that said, if you want to join our Discord, we have this down at the comment box. Join our Discord, share your art. Every art that's shared, we shared on our post. We also shared it on our newsletter. We do like to promote artists within the space. So if you share an art with us through our Light Art Discord Share Art channel, it's very likely that you will see it on our posts. And I know it's another way to keep promoting artists. And so please join us on our Discord. With that said, I just want to say hello and goodbye. Hello, Sunny. We see you. Hello, Erica. Thank you so much, Fine Art. Thank you, friends, Sounds and Towns. Thank you so much. Ali, Peter, Andres, Carl, Jose, Michael, Martin, Bucky, Dream, and Architects. Thank you for joining us. We're so grateful for your time. Thank you for being here. And with that said, have a beautiful Tuesday. Hope to see you next week.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Bye.
Take it easy. Bye.